All right, so we're just going to roll for between 10 and 15 minutes, and this will air unedited this Sunday morning. And then I'll be able to take excerpts for air on the iHeart Radio Newswire and help to put the word out about your book and about the event on the 16th. We're talking about a very important subject this morning, and it's something that is difficult for so many people to talk about. Our previous guest was Sue Coates in the last segment, the CEO of Turning Point in Macomb County. And I'm joined right now by author Danielle McGuire. And Danielle, you're going to be the keynote speaker at the Turning Point Spirit of Leadership event on May 16th. Thank you for taking the time to come out and spend some time with us.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
How did you come to this subject, and tell me about your book that is, I'm going to let you say the whole name of the book because it goes on, but every notion in the title is important and critical.
Thanks. It's called At the Dark End of the Street, Black Women, Rape, and Resistance, a new history of the Civil Rights Movement from Rosa Parks to the rise of Black Power.
And yet somehow it's not 4,000 pages long with all of that going on. You distilled things down.
Yes, and the main argument is that sexualized violence was endemic against African American women in the Jim Crow South, that white men kidnapped, assaulted, abducted, raped, harassed, etc. to black women, and that black women didn't always keep their story secret. Even at a time when they were not considered full citizens, they often used their voices to testify about what happened to them, and their testimonies often led to community mobilization on their behalf, which led to campaigns for not just the rights of these women who were assaulted, but for larger civil rights and campaigns for human dignity. And if you use the lens that I use, this sort of lens of looking at women's issues as civil rights issues, then you start to see that every single civil rights campaign that we think we know about, like the Montgomery bus boycott, the Birmingham campaign, the Selma struggle, they all have, they're all rooted in campaigns for justice for black women, often many of whom were assaulted or raped by white men. And I had no idea that Rosa Parks was that involved in the story until I interviewed Reese Taylor, who's now 93. After this brutal attack, she told her husband, her father, and she told the local white sheriff the details of the assault. A few days later, the phone rang in her house, and she answered it, and it was the Montgomery branch of the NAACP. And they said, "We're sending our very best detective." She said, "Great." A couple days later, there's a knock at the door. She opens it, and who's there? The NAACP's best detective, Mrs. Rosa Parks. It's 11 years before the bus boycott. And there she is with a pencil and a notepad ready to take Taylor's testimony. She writes down Taylor's story, and then she's kicked out of town by the sheriff. The sheriff comes around and says, "You got to get out of here, I'll kill you." So Rosa Parks leaves town and takes Taylor's story back to Montgomery, where she and the city's most militant activists organized the Committee for Equal Justice for Mrs. Reese Taylor. Sure. Yeah, of course I'm the white girl from the burbs, and I can't hide that. But it's irrelevant in many ways. I'm a woman, I'm an American, this is American history, this is women's history, this is a history of a struggle for human dignity and civil rights, and if we are not concerned with those things, then there's something wrong with all of us. And I don't think you need to be a member of a group in order to study that group or to study what happens